Imhotep. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. It is Wednesday, February 9th, 2022, and we are live. Now, we're on earlier than normal, so if you set your clock by the time I do my show, okay, you didn't lose 3 hours, okay. This is a special edition of the African History Network show, and this is Black Women Speak. And I wanted to you all saw the post I did back a week or so ago. I think it was like February 2nd, about AJ Johnson. We know her from Baby Boy. We know her from House Party. She was doing a podcast with Angela Yee from the Breakfast Club, and she talked about having a threesome with two men for her birthday. So it broke the internet. We posted about it on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. And I said, I told you we're going to have this discussion. I said, we're going to bring on some sex therapists. We're going to bring on some experts. So here we are. So I want to welcome to the African History Network show, first, Dr. Jacqueline Sherman. How you doing, Dr. Jack?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Dr. Jacqueline is a licensed clinical psychologist and certified intimacy and relationship coach. So I know she's going to have some good information for you. Then next we have Khadijah Tishan. Khadijah is an author, speaker, licensed therapist, and founder of Real, REAL Healing Center. How you doing today, Khadijah?
I'm excellent. Happy to be here as well.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, now y'all already know Kenya K. Stevens from the Progressive Love Academy. We've had Kenya on a number of times. Kenya's been on the Michael Baisden show and the Monique show, her and her husband, Carl Stevens. Kenya's a relationship expert, love coach, best-selling author, wife, and mother of three. Okay, so I wanted to have this conversation, and I didn't want to have this conversation by myself because I wanted to get the input from African-American women. So what I'm going to do, and how's everybody doing? Now, first of all, everybody, so this is like PG-13 rated RX. Okay, so if you have little children around, okay, if you have little children around, you may want to put the earbuds in like I have, or you may want to send them into another room and watch Barney or something, Sesame Street, whatever it is. I don't know whether the kids watch today. My daughter likes, what is it, Paw Patrol. Have them go watch Paw Patrol, okay? So we're going to have this conversation. All right, so I want to play this clip here. This is from the Breakfast Club. I'm not going to play the video, but I'm going to play the audio. So what happened was, and we talked about this on my show last night. So BlackAmericaWeb.com had this article dealing with AJ Johnson, and I'm going to pull it up right here. So those that are watching on Facebook and YouTube haven't read it, you can go read this on blackamericaweb.com. Baby boy actress AJ Johnson describes threesome with two men as best 50th birthday ever. Okay. And it's not like they had a conversation to discuss threesomes or anything like this, but it came up during the discussion. So I want to pull this up. I'm going to play a portion of the interview. And one of the reasons why I want to have this discussion, and I know probably each one of you all deal with this on different levels in the advocacy and the work that you do, is I saw a clear double standard, okay, in the responses that I saw from men. And when I posted on our fan page, the African History Network, we got probably close to 2,000 likes. And somewhere we got hundreds and hundreds of comments. And I was going through looking at the comments, and a lot of the women were saying either good for her or it's her business, it's okay if she likes that, what have you. So then when I looked at the comments from the men, I saw men fell into really largely one or two categories. Either the men said, okay, that's fine if she wants to do that. Okay, that's her business. A few of the men said, why didn't she call me? I'm mad because she didn't call me. There was a few of the men. But then there was another group of men, and I talked to some of them, and they really didn't make any sense. So there was another group of men, African-American men, who said they ran a train on her or they called her a whore. And I'm like, well, okay, first of all, I'm not saying she is, but if she's a whore, she wasn't there by herself. Number one. Okay. Number two, how'd you just come to the conclusion that they ran a train on her? Because when you read the article and watch the video, you get a different impression on that. So I want to go to this video here in just a second here. As soon as his ad stops playing, we'll go to this. I want people to hear this, and then we're going to discuss this. Okay, so just a second here. Let me back this up a little bit. All right, so they're having this conversation. Let's go to this clip.
Right.
But I mean,
But even for women, a lot of women will never do that.
Yeah, when they ask me, they're like, "Would you do a threesome?" I'm like, "Yeah, bring in. Let me pick the guy." They're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, I get so mad.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I've
Let me
only
pick the guy.
done that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and
Two men?
two men,
Mhm.
and they traded off. It was like they were friends, and they traded off. It's the best 50th birthday ever.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and they traded off, so it was never like them together.
Together, okay.
It was like they were flip flopping me, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was
Tennis
like
match.
it was like doing salsa with two guys at the same time. Just like romantic and sexy,
Nice.
and never intertwined, but at the same time it was two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel like that people make you feel like, because I feel like in society, like when we've been on here, guys don't really admit to stuff like that as much.
Yeah, they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna admit
There's
that.
like a list of things that they don't admit to.
Oh,
So wait, were these guys? So they were friends with each other?
they were friends,
Okay.
and I knew they were friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all about that Cocoa Patron.
Oh, shit!
The purple label.
That
coffee
coffee Patron,
Cafe.
that cafe,
Yes.
that cafe
No,
Patron.
I've had some wild nights on
Yes,
that
that
myself.
cafe Patron.
Mixed
For
it with
sure.
my coffee.
Listen,
Wow, those were my real drunk days. I used to love
see what I'm
that.
saying?
Yes.
Listen, for a birthday party, get some cafe Patron. Go to St. Bart's.
Yes.
You
I'm
too,
gonna
man.
swallow. I'm gonna do a threesome with
It's
you,
so
man.
good.
I'll be like, "What
No,
you
and it's not tasty when you come on your face.
Lord.
It's tasty. Like you can even put milk with it, and
Oh,
it's
my
so
goodness.
good. You just don't even notice how washed up you're about to be.
All right, so we got to hear AJ Johnson here, and I'm gonna pull up her remarks also for those that this may be new to them on. They heard bits and pieces of it. So I wanted to. One of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because when we view sexuality of African Americans, we largely view it through the prism of white supremacy as a legacy of slavery. And during slavery, not only were men made to be studs and men sexually exploited, but women were sold into prostitution, they were raped, but also made to be wet nurses as well, which is a whole nother thing that really doesn't get talked about a lot. So I'm going to go around. Let's start with Dr. Jack. She told me to call her Dr. Jack. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and certified intimacy and relationship coach. So Dr. Jack, what are your thoughts when you found out about this and heard the interview and saw some of the comments as well?
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me to this discussion. And when I saw you post about this on Instagram, I had to comment immediately because one of the things that stood out as I read through the comments was kind of what you noted before, which was this disproportionate gender difference in terms of if this was a guy, this is something that's okay, but because she's a woman, she's things like a slut, a whore, etc. And it really truly speaks to the patriarchy in our overall society, right? I took a look at the comments and there's some things that stood out. So some of the women were saying things like, I applaud her honesty. This is such a mature conversation. We need more open conversations like this. This is what a grown woman does, asks for what she needs. This is very educational and this is inspirational. On the flip side, some of the comments were, this is a gangbang. This is disgusting. This is degrading. This is the Jezebel syndrome. This is satanic. Okay? And
satanic.
Yes.
Somebody said it's satanic.
Yes,
okay. I missed that comment. Okay.
And then I stopped there. I stopped writing down comments at that point because I'm just like, wow. And it definitely is a gender difference in terms of the comments that were coming in. So as you spoke to earlier, the idea that this equals someone having a train ran on them, I call BS. And I call BS because someone having a train ran on them is at the core rooted in patriarchy, and it's rooted in a lack of control. This woman, AJ Johnson, knew exactly what she was doing, and she was experiencing pleasure as she was engaging in this process. She was in control. She gave consent, and she said yes. And so this whole idea that there's something that's happening to where she's not sexually empowered in that moment, I feel is very, very unfair. Another thing that comes up for me is the overall just pleasure gap that exists in the country, right? So we're familiar with the wealth gap, we're familiar with the income gap. There's also a pleasure gap that exists, right? And that pleasure gap typically impacts heterosexual cisgendered women the most. And what that means is that 65% of women who are engaging in male female sex are not being fully pleasured, right? And so, again, when we talk about this woman really speaking to an experience where she felt sexually empowered, where she was feeling so much pleasure within her body, where she really, really enjoyed this experience, and then for it to be flipped to something where she's, she should be a disgrace because she's engaging in this experience is truly, truly unfair when we look at the gender differences. Because, again, like I mentioned in my Instagram comment, this was a man, it wouldn't even be news.
Right, right. Okay, I'm going to come to you here in just a second, Khadijah. I just want to pull up AJ Johnson's comments for those who maybe didn't see them. And the thing is, so on my Facebook page, I actually posted the article, and on Instagram, I posted the name of the article. So, but I actually posted the article. I talked to some men. I said, read the article, and they said they read it. But clearly in the article, you get from it that she was in control, but the two men were there to please her as opposed to her being there to please them. I was trying to explain it to some brothers, and it seemed like they couldn't get that concept. So she said it was never like them together. They were flip-flopping me. One would please me, then he passed me to the other, and one would kiss me, and then he would spin me around for the other. It was a beautiful dance. Okay. So Khadijah, you are a social worker, and you do explain to people quickly the type of work that you do also.
Okay. I do telehealth therapy, and I also work in the behavioral health system, helping people to assess their needs and get them to therapists, and work around trauma and childhood trauma, primarily in relationships, and sort of working with them to have better relationships with like parents, significant others, children, those sorts of things.
Because I posted on my personal Facebook page about this. I was going to have a panel of therapists, and you, one of my Facebook friends, you said I want to be on that panel. Okay, so explain what were you thinking? What's your response to AJ Johnson and these comments towards?
Right, I'm kind of with Dr. Jack. I actually wonder why does it feel like to me that when it comes to Black women's sexuality, that is still news. Like there was an interview.
What is still news? What is still
the
news?
Sexual, like her sexual experience, like why of the whole entire interview, right? Like it was so many things she talked about: going to Africa, realigning with her spirituality, how she celebrated her birthday, coming out of a bad relationship, and this was the thing that went viral. And so what I started to notice is, she has this new show coming out, and I'm sure it's going to be great, right? I haven't watched it, but it's she's such an accomplished
life trauma and therapy,
life therapy, and so she's
therapy.
Already a very clearly accomplished woman. And of all the things she discussed, it seems like when it comes to Black women, it's always our sexuality that kind of is hyper focused on over the accomplishments, over the experiences, all the other things that she was talking about. Now, I think it's important because she's a celebrity that we don't look at someone's behavior and make it prescriptive, because she wasn't saying this is the cure for blah, 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 boredom in your relationship or disconnection. I mean, and oftentimes, the people who come to me probably aren't going to be seeking that kind of relationship because they're working around trauma and trust and building intimate relationships, feeling safety. So it's sort of like she's not telling people to do this, but oftentimes I feel like because someone is a celebrity, people look at what they're saying and take it like they're giving instruction. They become an authority and they're not even trying to be. So that was my main concern.
Right. Okay, so now it's important. I'm coming to you in just a second, Kenya, because I know you're bursting at the seams. So it's important. It's important to note, one, that was a conversation within a 1 hour discussion it was about 5 women. Okay, so that was one part of a overall discussion of about an hour. in the article from blackamericaweb.com, they have the full panel discussion, okay, from Angela Yee's podcast, Lip Service. Okay, so it's in there, and people can read this article. Baby boy actress AJ Johnson describes threesome with two men as best 50th birthday ever. That's what got picked up, but they did put the full interview in here so you can see the full context as well. Okay, so Kenya, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, you and I I've interviewed Kenya going back to like 2011, 2012 in my Blog Talk Radio days. Okay, but one of the reasons I want to have you on is because previously when we've talked about male patriarchy and things like this. And what I found was there was a certain segment of African American men who I was talking to on Facebook commenting on this. And I'm explaining to them, no, these two guys did not run a train on her. They were there for her pleasure. And it seemed like they could only conceptualize a threesome where it's two men and a woman as running a train. Talk about this. Explain this, Kenya.
Well, it's just partially a symptom of Western culture and Western cultural psychology. I was a psychology major. They just don't teach about women's sexuality. No one really knows what a female orgasm is, for instance. They don't study it and they don't share it in sex ed, for instance. We don't know what brings a woman pleasure. We don't know what a woman can even look at. Men don't know what we're looking at in them. What do we see in them? Do we think the phallus looks good? Do they send a picture? Is that good? They don't know. They're always guessing. And so when real female sexuality comes out, they're like, oh, that's it. No, they couldn't be it. And it's like, yeah, that's, we like, women are, we have, I don't want to say 10 times more the sexual desire, but we definitely have more nerve endings in our vulva than men have. And then men get some of theirs cut off with circumcision. But we have more nerve endings. We have a very high desire for sensuality. And I was so proud of AJ because she's 50. Which of these men are even her age?
Right. At the time, she's 59 now, but at the time she had a threesome.
She's 60 years old. And I was so proud because this is going to plant a seed in so many young women that older women are making love. They enjoy it. This is going to help men understand women. And this is just going to keep snowballing forward. It's a blow up at first, but then it sinks in and men learn. This is all part of the learning process. The shock. Oh, we didn't know that. Oh, now we know. Let's go forward and with a new paradigm. So I'm very excited about this.
All right. So, Dr. Jack, what type of advice can you, well, first of all, tell us about the type of people that you counsel, that you help in your practice. You're a licensed clinical psychologist, certified intimacy and relationship coach.
Yeah, so I'm a contractor as a psychologist, and I work with primarily African-American women and men, and I work with a lot of couples in that work. And then I own my own practice of intimacy coaching. It's called Your Exceptional Sensuality Center, or the Yes Center. And within that practice, I work with women and couples who are struggling with intimacy and sex. And so I help them to have better sex in their relationships. I help them to heal from sexual shame and to be able to have more both emotional as well as physical intimacy in their relationships. So that's the kind of work that I do.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So when we look at something like this, once again, at the beginning, I said, oftentimes we look at sexuality when it comes to African Americans through the prism of white supremacy and the legacy of slavery, white male patriarchy, but also during slavery, we're looking at, so for instance, one of the works that helped me to, even though I'm a historian, one of the works that helped me to reframe the way I think about certain things is a book by Professor Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. It's called They Were Her Property. The book came out about 2018, 2019, and I did a show about it. AtlantaBlackStar.com has an article about it, but it deals with how between 1850 and 1860, looking at census data and other data, 40% of slave owners in America were white women. And this change, this is different than how we've been taught historically about the participation of white women in slavery. But one of the things she dealt with is what she called orchestrated sexual assault. And she talked about wet nurses, for instance. So if you had a white female slave owner and she gets pregnant, and she doesn't want to nurse her children, well, then she's going to use a wet nurse, African American woman who's enslaved, to breastfeed the child. If you don't have any who are lactating, well, then you're going to have to organize a rape on one of them. And what she talked about was that when we look at that took place, that orchestrated sexual assault, historically, we've only been taught to see the woman as the victim, because we were taught that the black man was the stud, so he liked it. But she said they're both victimized. And we just assume, based upon white male patriarchy, that the black male liked it and the woman was the victim. But she said no, they were both being victimized. So talk about what are some things that we should take away when we see that some people could only see that threesome as being a train ran on her, and that she wasn't the one in control. And those two men were there for her pleasure as opposed to the other way around. What are some things we can take away from this?
Yeah, so I think that the main takeaway is that we have a whole lot of unlearning to do. And we have a whole lot of relearning to do when it comes to female sexuality, especially the sexuality of women of color, because we understand so little. And a lot of times we're learning from things like the media. We're also learning from things like porn. And when you think about porn, unfortunately so, I have nothing against porn. I'm here for it, but it's an entertainment tool. And unfortunately, it's been used as an education tool because our system has such poor sexual education that we really are still operating from an abstinence-based model, which is really unfortunate. We don't talk about pleasure, especially when it comes to women, when it comes to learning about sex. And so for me, and I think for all of us, really the takeaway is that we have to start to understand and do our own research when it comes to sexuality. The more that we understand, the more that we can teach those generations that come behind us, and the younger generations and our kids, etc. And so I think that it really comes down to understanding sex as different than just a tool to reproduce, but also a tool for connection, a tool for pleasure. And those things have not been taught to us. And really the humanization of people of color is another aspect of why we really don't understand this context when it comes to Black sexuality.
Okay, you said dehumanization of people of color.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, people can check out this article here from AtlantaBlackStar.com. Research by Black female professor reveals startling truth that white women made up 40% of slave owners. And this is about Professor Stephanie E. Jones. This article is from May 25th, 2019. It's about Professor Stephanie E. Jones Rogers, who's an associate professor of history at she's at University of California, Berkeley. And she went through, looked at data from 1850 and 1860 and revealed that white women made up around 40% of slave owners. Here's a picture of her. She has some lectures on YouTube that she's done. So it's brilliant work. And reading this and understanding what she calls orchestrated sexual assault, things like this, it caused me to really change part of my thinking of how we were traditionally taught about slavery. Okay, so Khadijah, what are some things that we can learn and take away from this, and maybe some things that you teach your clients as well when it comes to sexuality and African American women's needs, etc.?
Right. I think working in the space of trauma, right? Like it's understandable that a lot of Black women and men have experienced sexual trauma. And so we can't approach, right, going and looking at sexuality just in terms of, okay, well, this media person did this or this person did that as informative. We really have to do the work to heal ourselves first. And I think that's the big takeaway that I wanted people to understand is I know that a lot of people, like you said, do look at, media stars as sort of like, if it's okay for them, you know what I'm saying? Like it should be okay for whomever. And the thing is, each person, right? I always ask, like, is this productive for what you want? Is this productive for what you want? Is this compromising, or is this, complementing what you really need and what you want? And if it is, then great. And if it's, you have to kind of sit and think, why am I doing this? Is this to be competitive with someone else? Are you in competition with other women? Are you trying to do the more and more and more? And there are women who do feel a lot of pressure to perform more sexually and get less emotional satisfaction. They're literally doing more sexually and then saying, I don't feel connected to, I don't feel cared about, I don't feel heard. And that, to me, that's the disconnection. The choices that you make are your individual choices, of course, and we should all have choice. But when I see more and more people coming, into their 40s and saying, I haven't had a healthy, intimate relationship with another person, I'm like, why do you think more people will change that? Why do you think? There's an article in the Washington Post that says people between 18 and 34 are literally saying 51% of them have never had a one-on-one partnered relationship. So we're seeing people at 34 coming in and saying, I don't know what it's like to be in a relationship with anyone. So to me, I want people to understand that's a choice, but it may not be a choice that you're ready to make at this time. We have to learn how to be in relationships and healthy relationships with one another again, and start exploring sexuality and emotional needs and talk about it all, right? Not in just the lens of what's just pleasure, right? Emotions are also pleasure.
Right. And for those that may not know, maybe didn't see the full interview, and I'm not saying you were saying this, Khadijah, or Kenya, or Dr. Jack, but she wasn't, AJ wasn't saying that, I don't think she was saying everybody should do this or anything like that. She was talking about an experience that she had. Okay. She wasn't saying she does that every day or is routine for her or something like that. And this was something that happened 9 years ago as well. Okay. So I'm going to come to you, Kenya. And when we come back around, I'll come back to Dr. Jack. Khadijah just brought up healthy, intimate relationships. So after I go to Kenya, I want to come back around and talk about tips for healthy, intimate relationships, because a lot of people have never had them, and it could be a situation where they never grew up seeing that between their mother and father, so they don't have like a living model of that. But Kenya, what are some things that we can take away when we look at? We talked about white male patriarchy. We talked about seeing ourselves, sexuality through the prism of white supremacy and legacy of slavery, things like this. What are some things that you work with your clients regarding this? Because you talk about having to relearn all this and deconstruct it.
Absolutely. There's no client that has come to me is not suffering from PTSD from just living in this country. That is black and white and whatever. I mean, it's 330 million people in PTSD in this country. And so one of the first things we do is we switch the brain around via our communication system. So communication is first and foremost. Most people don't know their authentic yes or their authentic no. They're either in people pleaser or, they are in some mode of thinking that does not put their self and their needs and their value and their power first. So that's the first thing that we do when anyone comes to us to build relationships. The second thing we do is we teach them how to deal with other. What is other? Other is a reflection of self. Okay. So we have a metaphysical program that we take them through. And then to deal with the sexual trauma, we use lacing, which is a form of meditation that supports them in walking back through some of their traumas and the traumas that they witnessed. Because we may not have been there during slavery, but we witnessed those traumas through our mother's behavior, through our grandparents' behavior. Remember that mean granddaddy? He was traumatized. Remember that all of them, mom and them, and the family reunion stopped happening and people couldn't stop infighting. They were traumatized, and you experienced the trauma of slavery through those scenarios. So we know that as a love coaching company. We've been here 17 years, and we walk our clients through that first. That's forming a relationship with yourself and becoming self-aware. And so that's the first step of sexuality. Then we move them into connection with other. Then we move them into connection with the fact that they're free. And like AJ, they can have, do, or become whatever they want, because there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with our sensuality. There's nothing wrong with our desires. And that's how we do it. We have a process. People need a process.
Absolutely. All right. So Dr. Jack, healthy, intimate relationships. I know this is something that you help your clients with, things like this. What are some tips, especially for African Americans? Because a lot of our relationships are screwed up, and for a number of reasons. And what are some tips for healthy, intimate relationships that you can share with us today?
Yes, well, I love what Kenya mentioned in terms of starting with self, right? So really starting to understand for yourself, how do you deal with emotions? How do you regulate your emotions? That's a huge part of relationships. And oftentimes, this is something that we are not taught as individuals, how to cope with our emotions. And so that's going to be the first thing, emotional awareness. You know, what kind of things bring on difficult emotions for you? What kind of things bring on joy and pleasure? And how do you personally experience those? And how do you experience those in a relationship? So I think that that's going to be extremely important. Also, I help individuals address their mindset, their triggers, and their habits, right? And so when I think about habits, I'm more so talking about coping strategies. How do you cope with distress? How do you cope with relationship conflict? What does that look like? What have your models looked like, right? What about mindset? Important things to ask yourself when you're thinking about your mindset in your relationship is, you know, how are you supporting your partner? How are they supporting you? What are the ways that you are not asking for support, right? And so really, really thinking about in terms of how you think and how some of your thoughts or your beliefs may be holding you back from being able to show up as your full self in a relationship that may be impacting those relationships. And those relationships may not just be with a romantic partner. Those can show up with relationship with your mama, right? Relationship with your daddy, relationship with your sister, brother, your good friend, your coworkers, your kids. And so I think really even thinking about like intimacy on a broader spectrum, because oftentimes we really pigeonhole it to, oh, it's me and my partner or partners, when it's a lot more than that. So I really focus on, again, those triggers, those habits, that mindset, as well as really building that emotional awareness that will help in all relationships that you have across the board.
Okay, just very briefly, and I'm gonna come to Khadijah next. Just explain the concept of triggers. Explain that for people who may not really know what that is or experience.
Absolutely, that's a good question. So, for example, some people may have grown up in a household where they were often criticized by their parents. So, for example, say they got a 90A on a test, and mom says, "That's not good enough. You should have gotten 100. Why weren't you at the top of your class?" Or they go to play some type of sport and they get second place award instead of first place. So this person may then become an adult that is very, very sensitive to criticism, right? And so, for example, when they're in a relationship, when their partner says something to the effect of, well, you know, I really don't like, you know, how you cook this chicken breast, right? That can hurt someone who has grown up in a household where they have internalized criticism to mean something bad about them, right? So they internalize it as shame. I'm not good enough. So a lot of times what happens with a lot of the relationships that for individuals who come to see me is they have these triggers that have been built from childhood that are now coming out in the relationship, and their partner is saying, all I said was that the chicken breast was dry. They need to get over it. Right. But there's an underlying issue of that has not necessarily been addressed of, I'm really hypersensitive to criticism, and criticism hurts me in this particular way. So that would be a trigger.
Wow. All right. Thanks. And I'm coming to you, Khadijah. All I want to say is at Cass Technical High School, if I got an A and I got a 90, that was good, because the 92 at Cass Tech was a B. Okay. In Detroit, my GPA would have been a whole lot higher if a 90 was an A at Cass Technical High School.
In Florida, 90 was an A.
My parents went to Cass.
No,
I didn't know you went to
92 was a B. What'd you say?
I didn't know you went to Cass. My parents went to Cass.
Yeah, I graduated from Cass Tech. Yeah, 92. 83 was a C. All right, Khadijah. What are some tips that you want to give us dealing with healthy, intimate relationships, and maybe some tips that you share with your clients?
I think the most powerful tool that I'm using personally and with my clients, Black women, it's called Warrior Healer Builder Tools through I Institute, and we just talk about.
Okay, repeat that again and slow down. What is it called?
It's called Warrior Healer Builder, and it
Warrior Healer Builder.
Warrior Healer Builder,
Go ahead.
right? And it talks about navigating emotions and healing the wounds of oppression. So we talk about being mad, sad, and scared, and what to do when those things come up. Being peaceful, powerful, right? And then like what to do, like we at the end of the day, we all want to be in peace and empowered, and we want to have choices. And it's important for us to recognize through, living in this world of oppression, that a lot of our emotions are very alien even to us. And so to have partnership and intimacy with anyone, we're going to have to be able to reach into us for those emotions to even be able to share, right? Even in it's intimate situations, sexual situations, emotional situations. And I think that it's been life-changing for me, because it was like, until I found those tools and I really made it simple for myself. Okay, I'm sad and I need your protection. I need your reassurance, right? I need you to, right? And then you can go in with, whether it be your mom or your dad, your partner, and say, this is what I need when I'm this way. And I think sometimes we take for granted that it sounds really simple, but I cannot tell you how many women and men, right? Who just, if I say, I always say, like, it's always, we talk about trauma sometimes, and I'll hear people laughing when they're talking about a violation, right? And I was like, what's that laughter about? I don't know. That's just what happens. Like, but we've learned to substitute, right, our feelings so often to make other people comfortable, because it's so challenging for us to sit with those uncomfortable emotions. And just being able to be aware and sit with different kinds of emotion and ask for what we need to feel supported and healed. It's like life changing, just knowing how you feel. I think that's the biggest work that we can do, is be really authentic with ourselves.
Okay, excellent. And I want to come to Kenya as well, and then we're going to go back around for one last round, and you can give us your closing remarks and your social media handles and your books and anything else you want to promote. Okay, so Kenya, tips on healthy, intimate relationships, maybe things that you share with your clients at the Progressive Love Academy.
Oh, absolutely. Tantra. I was married. I've been married for 26 years. I have two husbands, but to my first and original husband, I've been married to him for 26 years, and our sex life was not good. In my 20s, I just did not know how to connect. Right. I had to put him only in a certain position in order for me to be able to, have an orgasm. And we did not know any sexual skills or techniques. We had to actually relearn, as Dr. Jack said, we had to relearn sex. So once we started to learn the traditional African indigenous sexual practices through Tantra, and then through downloading them from our ancestors, because any of us can download anything we want from the entire Akashic records in the universe. So downloading sexual practices. One of the sexual practices I was shown was chakra lovemaking, where you literally can make love from any one of your chakras, not just what we've been taught, like intercourse, and these types
genitalia, not just genitals.
Yes, not just genitals. These types of practices supported us in really expanding, and this is how we expand our clients. Sex is not even an intercourse. Sex means connection to source, plugging into the universe, being able to download energy and information. Sex is power, is magic. You can manifest. So we've been sharing things like this for the past 17 years at Progressive Love Academy, and it is really makes for a more powerful sexual practice, to get out of just Western sexuality. Because I don't even know if I would call Western sexuality. It is just objectification. It is just performance. It is just you understand, it is based on slavery. It's ownership. It's ownership of the body. It's use and abuse of bodies. So I don't think the West has a sexuality. So
and something that you and I have talked about before, Kenya, is that pornography really can cause harm in relationships. Now, some people, there's adult movies that are couple based. It's like couple oriented, which is kind of different than the movies that are from the male perspective, and the woman is there to please the man. Okay,
that's subject objects. Yep.
Subject object, and that call. And one of the things you've talked about before is for women to achieve pleasure through sex, they really have to be in tune with their bodies and know their bodies. Okay. And in this society, women traditionally really have not been taught to do that. So this causes more problems in relationships as well. And men have to know their bodies also. But the other thing, and we've talked about this before, men really are not taught how to please women sexually. Okay. Men are not taught female anatomy. I mean, you may look at magazines and you see breasts and vagina and things like this, but men are not generally. Now I know there are exceptions to the rule, and we'll get some comments on social media. Okay, whatever. We'll talk to your wife or girlfriend and see if you know how to please, whatever. But what I'm saying is like men really in this society are not taught to understand women's bodies, female anatomy, and how to please them also. And because we've had this conversation before, Kenya, this may be why there's so many. One of the reasons, not the only reason, why there's so many quote unquote angry Black women, because they can't achieve sexual intimacy and pleasure through sex as well. Okay, so all right. Closing remarks from Dr. Jack. What do you want to leave us with? And let us know about how people can get in contact with you, follow you on social media, any books you have, any upcoming lectures, things like that.
Yeah, thank you. I think my closing remark would be that not only have we not been taught, but we've been withheld a lot of information. And so it really is time for us to make our sexual empowerment a priority, right? And through exploration, through actions, through having conversations that we maybe didn't have before. This is really, really our time to awaken our sexuality and our sensuality. Unfortunately, our society, our Western society has failed us. And so in order to close that pleasure gap that I was mentioning earlier, we really need to get more information. We have to have more conversations like these to be able to talk about the disparities that do exist, and to be able to get more information so we can do our own research, so we can really learn our bodies. And not only is that our responsibility as well, in terms of women, but also men. Men have that responsibility too, right? Especially if you're in relationship with women, why not learn more? Why not ask questions? When you think about that overall pleasure gap that I mentioned, 65% of cis heterosexual women are experiencing pleasure and orgasm in comparison to 95% of men. That's a big gap, right? So again, we know, and we've learned a lot about male pleasure and how to please men. It's time for y'all to reciprocate. So I'm gonna leave y'all with that. You can get in contact with me a couple of ways. So my website is www.drjack.co. I'm also very active on Instagram, constantly.
Give that to us again. Give that. You said that was a website. Give that to us again.
Yes, it's www.drjack.co. I have a lot of fun, exciting things going on my website. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, if you're someone who is has sexual inhibitions, are looking to spice things up in your relationship, you want to learn how to initiate sex more, you want to learn more about your body, you want to increase your skill set, you want to be able to have better conversations around sex with your partner, hit me up. I do have openings for one-on-one clients. I also do lots of speaking events, as well as couples retreats and couples trips. So if you're going on a couples cabin, weekend, and you want to have a day of intimacy, that's something that I could be able to assist you with. Additionally, I'm very active on Instagram, so you can follow me over there. My handle is at Dr. Jack PhD, so that's DRJAC PhD. I'm oftentimes giving out lots of tips. If you have questions, send me a DM, and I'll definitely get an answer to you.
Now that's your website, drjac.com, drjack.com.
.co.
Oh, okay, .co. Okay. All right, and then I know you have helpful like short videos, 2, 3, 4 minute videos as well that you do on your Instagram page as well, drjac.co.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then I'm gonna come to you just a second, Khadijah, but you hit on something, Dr. Jack, and you said that you talked about men learning how to please women or
Yes.
something like that. Is that okay? So how can they get resources on that?
Yeah, so you can definitely contact me on my website if you want, if you have specific questions. But really, Google searching, learning about the woman's body, right? There's lots of information that's available out there, but if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. So information on like what are the positions that are more likely for women to orgasm?
Mm,
Information such as the importance of foreplay. For example, it takes on average 20 minutes of arousal for a woman to become fully aroused to where she's able to have a more pleasurable experience when she engages in penis and vagina sex. And
mhm.
so, again, Google is your best friend. Getting lots of books. There's a list of resources that I have on my website that has lots of books that are extremely helpful to be able to start this journey. So I would definitely say start with an inquisitive mind and ask lots of questions. And if you have a particular question, let me know.
Okay, no problem. And if you start from the premise that most of what you know about women is wrong, I think I think you will open your mind up to
Yes,
learning.
and give
Okay.
yourself grace with that because again, the information has been withheld. So we're all in
Right.
the process of relearning.
Right. Okay, no problem. All right. So Khadijah, go ahead with your final comments and then let people know how they can get in touch with you, follow you on social media. I know you have a book as well. Talk about that and any upcoming events that you have also.
Okay, great. I guess my closing remark would be I'm really working a lot deeply with compassion, especially this year. And I am launching the next cycle of this course. I call it Fear. And it is specifically for an intimate group of women who have been
Mhm.
experienced either trauma, loss, grief, and just challenging situations and walking them literally through the actual real life story of myself and a partner and how we like work through grief, right? And we work through all of the things that had happened to us in childhood. My first book, Real, is all about my personal childhood trauma memoir and my family
Okay.
and all of the things that why I was drawn to social work and clinical social work. That's literally why I do what I do. And then what I found was the Real stands for radical empathy, and that is what I had to give myself to even begin my journey of healing, to begin my journey of having different relationships. And with that came grief and loss and all sorts of emotions that I had to be able to sit with and be able to sit with other people's grief and loss. I think sometimes as women and even as men, we assume that the other person knows it and knows what they're doing and knows how to please us and knows all of these things an assumption, but we never really explore together. We never really took the
Right.
time to explore what are their losses? What are their needs? Am I the person to meet this? Am I comfortable with these things? So I think this course, if you're in a space like we meet, every single Sunday evening in March for 5 weeks, and we literally build a healing journey story. I tell you mine, and you build your own, and we share, and it is, amazing and transformative. So you can get a hold of me easily I'm pretty active on Instagram and as well as Facebook with my name at Khadijah Tishan. My website is khadijahtishan.com. And if you like a
Mhm.
copy, there's also a link to buy a copy of my book, Real, and continue these conversations around healing and trauma and, really asking for what we need.
Okay. And the name of your book is Real.
Yes, Real, radical empathic
Okay.
acceptance of life, how to live and grow abundant, how to live and serve abundantly.
Okay, now you said the program that you do, now is that virtual or is that in
That is
person?
virtual. That is an intimate group of women
Okay.
virtually. Mhm.
Okay, no problem. All right, excellent, excellent. And you gave your social media as well. You have any upcoming events or lectures, anything like that?
No, all of the next event will be the virtual course in March, and that will meet every single week for 5 weeks up until April. And I'll be on several different podcasts, so I'll just be posting those on my website and also on my social media page.
Okay, check her out at khadijahtishan.com. And I'm gonna come to you in just a second here, Kenya. Here's Dr. Jack's website as well, drjac.co. Okay, there's Dr. Jack. She's been featured in Essence magazine and Huffington Post and Blavity. So you can see her here, Discover Your Sexual Understanding. So check her out here, and she has video clips there also at her website. Okay, so Kenya, what are some what are some closing statements, and let people know how they can find you on social media, give people the information about the Progressive Love Academy as well, and your books.
Absolutely. I'm just so proud of everyone. I've just sat from I guess like a tower and watched just the transformation since 2005 when I started my company, and the reactions till now, and the number of sex coaches now, and the number of people dealing with trauma, and the number of people learning Tantra and sex, and the number of people who really are glad that this is happening. Because as you said, Black women, we deserve just as much depth in our sexuality as any other creature on this planet. And so that's happening, and I'm so proud. One thing that I'm working on, and you can always find me at Up Level. I wrote a communication system that teaches actual communication skills, step-by-step scripts, how to frame your emotions so that you can be heard, seen, and met. This is the deepest intimacy, and it gets my clients to make love again, because most people are not making love because nobody's listening to them, or they don't feel heard. You're not even listening to what I said, and so why would I do that? And then a lot of women can't really connect sexually and really let go to orgasm if they don't trust that you're hearing them, if they don't trust that you care about them, or care about their needs, or care about what they said last night at dinner and you don't even remember, so it's so communication is the touch point that I use to start talking about sex and sensuality in my coaching. I do take one-on-one clients. I have thousands and thousands of clients all over the world utilizing the Up Level system. You can find it at uplvl.com, and that is a website just for Up Level. I have several different websites and several different companies, but this, in my view, is where we start, uplvl.com. That's also on Instagram, uplvl, but everybody knows about Progressive Love Academy. You can follow that online or follow that on Instagram as well.
Okay, yeah, because I have the website up already for Progressive Love Academy. Okay, so I was going to show that here. This is Progressive Love Academy website, so everybody can check her out there. And that's Rakim Carl, her husband. So they have a lot of information here. You see her book, Up Level, progressiveloveacademy.com. And then the other website is Up Level, uplvl.com. All right. Okay. Well, look, ladies, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come on today and share this information with us, and we'll be in touch. We're going to bring you back also. Okay. All right. So you all have a good night. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
All right. No problem. Take care. Peace. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. So that was a panel discussion that I wanted to have with some intelligent African-American women who are professionals. So they're credentialed. Those are not YouTube relationship experts. There are a lot of them floating around, YouTube relationship experts. I'm not going to call anybody's name, but that's not them. Okay. All right. I want to remind you that you can, the online classes that I teach dealing with history, you can still register for those. The class has just started up. It's a 10-week online class that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. On Saturdays, it is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights. On Saturdays, it's ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Kemet's one of the original names for Egypt, ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. I teach this on Saturdays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay. You can use this with your children. It's not vulgar. I don't do a lot of cursing, things like that. And it's very visual. Okay. So we do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. And we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime as well. Okay. So if you visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and scroll down the page, you have the information there. The class is regularly $130. It's on sale $80. And once you purchase the class, it's yours. So a year from now, if you want to go back and watch the entire class, you can do that. Okay. You still have access. And then on Sunday, the class that I teach is it's another 10-week online class. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we do this on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we look at each class, we go through and look at about a 15, 20-year period of history. And we look at from the Civil War, 1861, 1865. We look at the Reconstruction era, 1865 to 1877, Jim Crow era, World War I, World War II, Great Migration, Civil Rights Movement, Black Power Movement. Okay. This class is also on sale $80, regularly $130. And we have a bundle pack right now, so you can get both classes for only $120. It's a $260 value. You can use this with your children. Once again, you can watch them around the world. As soon as you register, you can watch last week's class. There's bonus content that you get. And with the Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade class, you're going to get a special bundle pack. You're going to get a special bonus, 15 of my lectures in digital format, 15 of my lectures that are part of the Michael Imhotep Black History Month 15 DVD bundle pack, 15 lecture bundle pack. Okay. You're going to get those lectures in digital format when you register for Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. You can order the 15 DVD bundle pack from our website. That's on sale $100, but you'll get in digital format, you get those lectures as a bonus. And we also have the bundle pack here of the two courses on sale for $120. That's a $260 value. Now, if you've taken any of my classes in the past, and I've been teaching these online classes since 2017, I've been studying history 30 years. I'm the founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. Been doing the African History Network show since March 2010, so it's been 12 years. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. If you've taken any of these classes, with me in the past, you can you'll get a 50% discount. Okay, so email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. Email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com, and you'll get a 50% discount on the bundle. So you get the bundle for only $60. Okay, all right. 50% off the class for returning students. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora. Oh, now my show is on. I'm on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And when we're on, we broadcast live here on 910. We broadcast here on Facebook and YouTube. So I'm on, my radio show is on 910 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. We broadcast here on Facebook and YouTube, Michael Imhotep on YouTube, and the African History Network here on Facebook. You can download the iHeartRadio app. You can also listen to 910 a.m. Superstation WFDF live. That's me in the studio. Because of COVID-19, they have us broadcasting from home. Otherwise, I'd be broadcasting from the studio, which is, I'm in Detroit, Michigan. The studio's in Southfield, Michigan. So we have the information here about the radio show. You can watch us on Facebook and YouTube and on Twitter. They brought Periscope back up. So we're on Twitter, the AHN Show. Click here to listen to audio podcasts of my shows as well. Okay. And let me see here what we have. Click there to listen to audio podcasts. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com, especially for African American History Month or Women's History Month, Juneteenth, anything like that. Email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. You can also advertise with the African History Network. So when you watch the rebroadcast of our shows and listen to the audio podcast of our shows, you see the commercials as well. Current promotion, buy 1 month, get 2 months free. Email us at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. All right, so I'll be back on the air tonight. So watch out for that as well. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on, and if you like this type of information also, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. So this helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. Because even though I do radio 6 days a week, I don't get paid to do radio. I don't have to pay for airtime, but I don't get paid to do radio. So this helps us to stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. And then on Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., you can watch me on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Okay, I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Fridays as a panelist, doing commentary, etc. All right, so you can download the Black Star Media app. That's Roland's network. Download the Black Star Media app and also follow Roland on Facebook and YouTube as well. Okay, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now, let's correct wrong behaviors. Not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk